So I would like to do an opening prayer this Sunday, a little differently than I normally do. Most of you know that there is a rather horrific war that has broken out in the Gaza Strip. And we know the power of prayer. And Barbara shared with me a beautiful prayer visualization that I would like to lead us through this morning. And I'd like to say that while we are focused on this particular conflict, this prayer goes out to any violence, any suffering, any pain anywhere in the world, including in our own lives. So I invite you to sit back and gently close your eyes. Begin by taking a deep breath in. Let it out on a sigh and let yourself become totally centered in this present moment. Let's just take a minute to let go of all the ideas we have regarding this conflict or any conflict. Let go of the idea of sides. This is about humanity. This is about brothers and sisters, a part of our family. Let your attention move to your heart and feel that heart space. Even if it's hurting a little, that's okay. Just let it open wide. And now I invite you to visualize, there we go. I invite you to visualize Jesus walking through these lands of Palestine and Israel. This is where he walked over 2,000 years ago. But imagine him walking through the lands, through the cities, through the countryside, through the combat zones, not doing anything in particular, but being a presence in the world right there. As he's doing so, forgiveness, peace, love, healing, and blessing flow out through the immense auric field that is his to all. Imagine that, standing in the lands of Israel and Palestine with forgiveness, peace, love, healing, and blessing flowing out as light. Tune into this image and hold it in your heart and your mind for a moment. Now see his light embrace all the combatants. See this light receiving and holding and healing those whose physical incarnations have ended. See this love and light holding those struggling and suffering in the physical world. Feel love front and center. Feel love front and center without blame and condemnation. Have a sense that he is holding everyone. Not the way a parent holds a child, but the way a friend holds up another friend who has stumbled and is falling. one companion on the road helping up another. And now, if you choose, see yourself embodying the same immense light and love. See this love flowing from you out to every living being, healing, forgiving, embracing, connecting. And while we focus on Palestine and Israel, know that this same love, this same incredible, powerful healing energy working in your life or any other circumstance where there is suffering. Remember to breathe. Breathe. Love. And as we move toward bringing this prayer to a close, we claim the power of Spirit as our life, moving through us in our actions and our words. We claim the same healing power is working in and through every situation, regardless of its appearance. We flood this world with a compassion that is unparalleled, a love that is unconditional, and a healing that awakens each and every soul to their own divinity and our divinity as one. So it is. Amen. Oh, goodness. Thank you for letting me do that, and thank you for joining me in that powerful prayer. Let's join together as we speak our unity prayer of oneness. There is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God, the good, omnipotence. Now I invite you to take another moment of silence. If you have anyone you would like to speak their name forth into the sacred space, a name, a situation, something for yourself. This is a time when we open up and allow for the power of our voice to speak these words in prayer. And together we know that even as we release these words into this sacred space, the power of God, the power of Spirit, the power of love is working in and through that situation to bring about its highest good. And so it is. I'd like to invite up now, to read from our daily word, Brent and Maria.
Today is generous. The abundance of the world flows through me. I am securely in the flow of prosperity when I receive graciously, gratefully, and share my abundance generously.
La abundancia del mundo fluye a través de mí. Estoy seguro en el fluir de la prosperidad cuando recibo con gracia y comparto generosamente con los demás.
Whatever I share with a loving, giving heart blesses me as much as it blesses the one who receives it. Each time I share of my supply, I am demonstrating my trust that I will always have what I need. When I share of myself, I am living my faith that I am a divine being empowered with a limitless supply of divine ideas.
Compartir desde un lugar de amor y generosidad no solo bendice al receptor, sino que también me bendice a mí. En un acto de confidencia en la prosperidad del universo y una demostración de fe en mi propia naturaleza divina y en el potencial ilimitado.
The richness of an abundant universe flows through me. Knowing this, I don't hesitate to be generous so others will know the abundance of the world as I know it. Through my giving, may they also know the blessings of the awesome power and grace of God as they bless me daily.
La riqueza de un universo abundante fluye a través de mí. Al saber esto, no dudo en ser generoso para que otros experimenten la abundancia del mundo, como yo lo conozco. Al dar también ellos reciban las bendiciones del asombroso poder y gracia de Dios, así como yo los recibo cada día.
Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the spirit that is from God, so that we may understand the gifts bestowed on us by God. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 12.
No hemos recibido el espíritu del mundo, sino el espíritu que proviene de Dios, para que entendamos lo que Dios nos ha dado. 1 Corintios 2:12. Gracias.
To forgive and to heal. To forgive and to heal is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to explore not only these topics in terms of separate items, but we're going to do a mashup. We're going to talk about both of these things as they affect each other and how they work together. Forgiveness and healing. And when we see what's going on in the news this week, it's a challenge. It is a challenge for this world to work its way through these two things as well. Our fall book study, Eric Butterworth's The Power Within You, Discover the Power Within You is the full title. We're on chapters 12 and 13 this week, forgiveness and healing. Again, to forgive and to heal together at the same time. That's what we're going to talk about, together at the same time. So a quick story as I do every once in a while. I get to hear some of my stories. Some 30 years ago, back in California, one of my hobbies was, well, first of all, I lived in Ventura, right there on the coast, right there at Ventura Harbor. We had our choice of Oxnard Harbor, Ventura Harbor. Sailing was my hobby for a few years. I had joined a sailing club. We were able to check out boats and go sailing. The Channel Islands were right off the coast. It was a wonderful thing to do. It was a wonderful thing. We got a chance to invite friends out for the day to enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the fresh air, the salt air, and that idea of sailing out there. One of these excursions out there sailing, and you've seen the pictures, where you're pulling in the mast and the boom's moving around and you're pulling on the sail, and there's a lot going on usually when you're tacking into the wind on a small sailboat. One of these days as I was out there, I injured my hand pretty severely, and I smashed one of my fingers, and it felt serious at the time. Let me just put it that way. Bandaged it up, and we went out to dinner. But then I came back home that evening, looking at that finger, and it was red, it was swollen, I could tell it felt like it was it started to get infected. That fingernail was banged up pretty bad. In fact, I'm thinking I might lose this fingernail, is how bad it felt and looked at the time. And at that same time, again, this is 30 years, this is before I even discovered Unity, I was attending a Christian Science church at the time, another of the New Thought churches, and I was working with a practitioner at the time. I called him and told him what had happened, and we were praying together, we were reading together. He assigned me readings out of Mary Baker Eddy's Key to the Scriptures, and I was to do my work that evening with that. We did. We read, we prayed. I envisioned the healthy hand, and I did that for a couple hours before I went to bed. Put a Band-Aid on that finger and went to bed. And I'll finish that story later. You know the format. I do this quite often, right? It's to keep you coming back for more. Today we're going to talk about this question that we have, that I have at least. Is the age of healing, because we read the New Testament, is the age of healing no longer with us? Is that a one and done thing? Did that happen 2,000 years ago? Did Jesus demonstrate that? And it's no longer part of our world anymore. That's the question that we're going to ask ourselves. Is this only something that occurred in the past? And then we're going to move into the concept of the power to forgive and to heal. Hand in hand, forgive and to heal. So, back to that question. Is the age of healing only something that occurred in the past? I'm seeing some no's, seeing some maybe looks out there. I suggest, so this is me, it's the gospel according to Jim, that no, it hasn't. And let's explore that. So, no, we are not past that one and done. We see these miracles, we see these healings in the past, and that's it. And that's it. A big part of the New Testament, a big part of Jesus and his ministry, we've got to admit, is that of miracles, right? Miracles. And we've got those documented, or we've got those written about in the 4 Gospels. We've got those 4 Gospels. We've got those 37 some odd miracles that we talk about within those 4 Gospels. And let me throw it out there. What's your favorite miracle of the New Testament? Let me hear it.
Water to wine.
Water to wine.
Hem of the garment.
Pardon me?
The hem of the garment.
Hem of the garment. Touching the hem of the garment. And a healing there. Yeah. What else? Pardon me? Feeding the 5,000. Awesome. Those are some great ones. And I should have ran this by Alan ahead of time, because you've stolen my punchline. As I grew up in California, visiting wine country on an annual basis, yes, water to wine is my favorite miracle as well. So, but out of those 37 miracles that we read about, 23 of those 37 have to do with healing in some way or another. And I did the math really quick, and 62% of the miracles have to do with healing in some fashion. So, why is that? Why did the writers of those 4 Gospels feel that healing was so important to write about? Why was healing so important to those writers of the gospel? Well, we believe within the Unity movement that those things that Jesus did when he was here 2,000 some odd years ago were a demonstration. Were a demonstration. Again, not that it was a one-off and that only he could do these things. He demonstrated what was possible for us in this world as well. In other words, Jesus was not the exception. Jesus was not the exception. In the Gospel of Matthew, quoting Jesus, "All that I do, you can do too, and even more." You can do too. Gospel of John, "And even greater things than these," he says. So these things were demonstrations of things that we could do as well, and we're not even limited by these things. And greater things as well. I'm at a loss for words. Let's just put it that way. I just think that that's an awesome statement, and greater things than these. And the subtext of this for me is that this is not the definition that some people give of these healings, of these, what we've classified as miracles. The subtext for this is these are not magic. These are not things that Jesus did that broke the rules of the universe. In essence, these are the principles that we're learning that we can do as well. These are principles, not acts of magic. It's about principle. Principles that we have access to, but we have to know. We have to learn and we have to practice. These are principles of our universe. The affirmation that I've been using this week, I am a living, breathing example of the power of healing. Now, I'm going to say part of this phrase, and I'd like you to repeat that with me. I am a living, breathing example of the power of healing. Thank you, Jim. Which brings us to that other part of this exploration here today, that power to forgive and to heal. That power to forgive and to heal. Our physical bodies, I kind of think of them as like vehicles that get us around within this world, right? Our physical bodies, you've got to admit, are amazing things. They've got all these systems within it, our blood and our skeletal system and all these things work together. They were designed to work together in an amazing way. And think of the complexity of this, the interconnected nature of all these systems that move us around on a daily basis. Eric Butterworth in this book that we're studying says, humans have a built-in capacity for health. That complexity of our bodies heals itself when it's necessary. That complexity includes healing. That doesn't make it any less worthwhile to focus on. It's just amazing that it's a built-in function as well. Charles Fillmore, on page 169 of this same book, says this, quote, "Health is from within and does not have to be manufactured from the outside. It is the normal condition of humans, a condition true to the reality of their being." It is the normal condition of humans. Healing and health is our normal state of being. Do you believe that? Yeah. That's where we come back to. When we're out of sync, when we're sick or not feeling right or have a banged up finger that's going to get infected, coming back into health is the norm. Is the norm. So bringing those two things together, bringing the idea of forgiveness and health, or forgiveness and healing together, I was reminded of Myrtle Fillmore's story. Myrtle Fillmore's story. And her story, she actually, and I'm not going to go through the whole story again, but within her story, she spoke to the organs in her body, these systems that at least she knew of. She didn't go through all of the systems in her body. She wasn't a doctor. She spoke to the cells. She spoke to the organs within her body. She began to forgive herself during this process as well. She began to forgive herself in underestimating the healing power of these organs and these cells, if that makes sense. She was indoctrinated as a youth. Her family told her over and over and over again that she was a sickly child and that she probably wouldn't live a full life. That's what her family and doctors of the time told her. And she started to believe that. So part of her healing story was to shift that. And shift that in terms of forgiving herself, because she asked those organs for forgiveness. I know that I expected you to be sick. Can you forgive me, because I know that health is innate within you? And she did that over and over again until it became the norm. Health and healing became the norm in her life. She needed to forgive herself in order to heal. And again, Myrtle Fillmore, the steps to healing and wholeness for her was to have faith in that healing nature of the body. She didn't sell those cells short anymore. She knew that her body was capable of amazing things. In other words, to be open to the divine inspiration of what was hers to do in terms of forgiveness and health, once again. And it doesn't say it necessarily in that story in the way that she wrote it within her writings in her book, but I imagined as well that she realized, that she thought about the idea of what is mine to do in terms of this forgiveness and this health, right? Again, it's not magic, right? It's not, I'm going to imagine and then poof, it happens. I imagine that Myrtle Fillmore sat there and thought about, well, what is mine to do in this time? And we know that it took a period of time, maybe almost 2 years, for her to completely heal in this process. But I can imagine her thinking about, what is it that I'm putting into my body? What is my diet like? Do I exercise regularly? Maybe there's a change in environment that I need in order to heal. I think that she probably went through some of these things in her mind. Did she need to seek help? Maybe even from a new source than she was in the past. Was she open to something different in this healing journey of hers? She prayed. That was part of her journey. Did she fill her mind with positive, encouraging information? And I ask ourselves, when we're in that process of healing ourselves, forgiving and healing ourselves, what do we fill our minds with? What are we thinking about? Are those positive things? Or are we focused on the diagnosis itself? And can we ask ourselves, what are we reading? What are we watching on TV? What are we talking about to friends? Netflix has documentaries that we're discovering on health and healing. Focus on that. There are podcasts, there are YouTube videos out there that encourage us in that health and healing environment as well. As we utilize our power of imagination to visualize our own health. What do you fill your mind with? What do you tell yourself? I am a living, breathing example of the power of healing. Is that part of your inner dialogue that you have? So forgiveness. Let's take a step back into forgiveness as well. What if healing had something more to do than this physical manifestation of our human bodies as well? So we're expanding this concept of forgiveness and health as well. What if it goes beyond simply our body? And I'm not discounting the physical healing by any means, but I'm just exploring a little bit wider. What if we can consider those other things within our lives that we heal as well? So, let's step back into that traditional Christian theology where, again, just hear me out here, where that definition of sin, and I felt a little tightening up here for myself, and I saw that out there. Sin, what's he going to talk about? But as sin being defined, again, in traditional Christianity as a transgression of divine law, right? That's the traditional, we committed a sin, you committed a sin, they committed a sin kind of idea. But within unity, we might reword that idea of being out of harmony with our source of being. Simply being out of harmony with that source, without judgment, without condemnation within the unity movement as well. In the Old Testament, the prophet Habakkuk referred to God as, and here's where I'm taking a step outside here, referred to God as, thou that are the pure eyes than to behold evil. This is a step in theology beyond what we usually think of. A description of God. Thou that art pure eyes than to behold evil. Let's unpack that statement because it's really important. What if God, as that concept of principle for us, didn't see these out of harmony events in our lives? So as humans, we stumble every once in a while, right? What if God didn't see those things, didn't judge those things, didn't keep a running tally? How would that change your world? How would that change what you think about in terms of what happens to me in the next life as well? See how it really has potential to change things. What if God did not see these stumbles in our life? There was no evil. What if there was no evil? What if there was no sin? What if there was no judgment? No need for God to forgive us? Whoa! Right? No need for God to forgive us. I think that's a big deal. What would happen instead if there was just love? Just love, regardless of what we did or didn't do in our world. When we stumble into our humanity, and then we forgive ourselves for being out of humanity, we stand back up again, we dust ourselves off, we begin again without condemnation. That's a healing as well. That's a forgiveness and a healing package right there. Ralph Waldo Emerson, I believe, was speaking to the understanding of this divinity that doesn't condemn us as well when he wrote, "His heart was as great as the world, but there was no room in it to behold the memory of a wrong." Wow. Again, I'm saying wow a lot here today. But wow. Ralph Waldo Emerson. The Daily Word this week talked about healing. I don't know if anybody caught that as well. But from a different perspective, it talked about the attitude that I have for my body. It talked about the messages that I get from the outside world, maybe from social media, maybe from other people's comments about me, maybe even my self-talk as well. It talked about that inner critic and the way that I speak to myself for those, what we sometimes see as flaws within our lives, within our bodies even. Those messages we get, and I hate to admit this because I have a daughter back in Florida, these messages that my daughter gets as well from our society. I'm not tall enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not skinny enough, I'm not sexy enough, my skin is blemished, I'm too big here, I'm not big enough there. My six-pack went missing and I don't know where to find it. All those kind of messages that we get from images out there. But the Daily Word reminded us that believing in these messages of something that's inherently wrong with my body puts us at odds with what knowing our oneness with God really means. Our oneness with God would negate all those negative images that we have. And that becomes a forgiveness and a healing right then and there. So instead, I claim a healing by focusing on what's right, on what's great about my body, appreciating what is working, what is functioning, and that I am alive and well on a daily basis. I shift my perspective to one of knowing my wholeness in this wonderfully supportive universe, my oneness in this supportive universe. I have doctors, I have nutritionists, I have physical therapists. I broke my wrist 2 or 3 months ago, and I worked with physical therapists that I thank God for, because I am 100% now. Isn't that a miracle of sorts, right? Now I'm still working on this shoulder, because bam, I hit pretty hard on that shoulder. But I still believe that I'm healing, and that will be 100% one of these days as well. I show up at the gym. There's trainers at the gym. There's greenways for me to walk on, to ride my bicycle on. There's healthy food that I can walk to and feed myself. We live in such an abundant city and space here in this world. We have all these things that support us in our health and oneness. We have it right here. Sometimes it's simply forgiving ourselves and embracing that healing wholeness. Just yesterday, Reverend Lisa and I went to the pottery fair, and it's called CCM, Charlotte Clay Matters. Charlotte Clay, and we had a great time walking around, looking at the different potters and what they had, all the way from pottery trinkets all the way up to museum quality stuff. It was an amazing time that we had yesterday afternoon. We stopped off and had lunch at, hopefully you know, Tacos for Life. It's amazing, right? Gil knows where it is. It's amazing, and for every taco you eat, they donate to end world hunger, which is great. I made the mistake of having the refried beans as my side, and I got home and I told Reverend Lisa, it's like, oh man, I just don't feel good. You know, it's like I shouldn't have had those refried beans, right? But I'm going to focus on polishing up this talk here today, and I dove into that and I did. I worked on that, finishing up, immersing myself in the principles of forgiveness and health, right? And I announced, oh, okay, I think I'm done here. You know, I'm ready for tomorrow. I'm ready for Sunday. And she asked me, well, how do you feel? And it's like, I'm 100%. Right? What was I focused on? Tell me, what was I focused on? I was focused on healing and wholeness and forgiveness. I had no time to wallow in the refried beans anymore. Could I say that I was healed? Yeah, I'm going to say I was healed. So, today we talked about, is the age of healing only something that occurred in the past? No. It's happening right here, right now. I experience it many times. We have the power to forgive and to heal. And back to my original story, back to when I was sailing off the coast of Southern California. I'd gone to bed that night. I'd put that Band-Aid on my finger at night, thinking that, what am I going to do when I wake up and this fingernail's I'm going to lose this fingernail. It's infected. What am I going to do? I had prayed the night before. I had opened myself up to healing. I forgave myself because I had blamed myself. It was, oh, I did that stupid thing. I grabbed on when I grabbed and pushed when I should have pulled, you know, and it was my fault, I thought. I deserve this, right? I deserve to lose this fingernail. I forgave myself in this process. It wasn't my fault that I hurt myself. I read from a good, positive source. I focused on the good. I saw myself as part of that universe that's healthy and good and unlimited. And in the morning, as I unwrapped that Band-Aid, it was all better. That's why I keep coming back to the story 30 years later, because it was amazing. It was amazing. This finger, I didn't lose the nail. I was healed, a little stiff. I had banged it pretty bad, but it was healed. I believe that. I know, without a doubt, absolutely, 100%, that I am a living, breathing example of the power of healing. And so are you. I love you. I bless you. I see the Christ in each and every one of you. Namaste. Let's take a moment and move into meditation. I invite you to wiggle around, to put your feet on the ground, anchor yourself into this earth. Close your eyes if that feels right, or you can focus on that candle on the screen, whatever works for you. Take that breath, let it out, and relax into this moment. I encourage you, spend the next little while focusing on healing of this planet, using that imagination that Candy and Joan played about, the healing of our planet. If it's Gaza, if it's Ukraine, wherever it is that needs that attention. Filling our hearts with that light that represents love, that candle flame, whatever it is, let it expand. Believe in that oneness with the universe, that we were created in love. Let it expand to surround yourself. Let it expand to include the neighbor sitting next to you. Let that light of peace and love fill this room. See if you can feel it, not only your light, but those around you as well. Allow yourself to feel. And then in that next step that we take, we open up the doors and then let that light shine out around the world, out into those areas of need. It is a blessing to our world. We fill it with light. We fill it with love. We fill it with peace. And let's continue to do that for the next minute or so. And as we bring our awareness back into this room, take that breath. Maybe we open our eyes, we come back in. As we know that that love that we felt, that light from our heart, we take that with us. And we continue to shine that out into the world. In the hours ahead and the days ahead, throughout the week as well. Namaste.
So let's now move to the offertory part of our service, because we know that as we give, so do we receive. And it's through your generous giving that Unity of Charlotte is able to continue to be a light in this community. Please join with, let me first say, before I forget, our consistent giving. There we go. We have many different ways to give. We cover them every Sunday. I'm not going to go through each one, but just to remind you. And I was recently asked if you need help on how to do online giving, please come see Reverend Jim and I, and we can help you with that online option. Now, please join me in our offertory blessing. Together, joyously, I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. The light of God surrounds us. We are light. The love of God enfolds us. We are love. The power of God protects us. We are power. The presence of God watches over us. We are presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.